Have you ever been so scared of the news that you've lost your appetite? Have you been told that chicken could be the worst thing ever? Have you heard that you could be eating bugs or feeding your kids poison? Do you sometimes get paranoid when browsing the supermarket shelves? Well, you're not alone. There's so much flashy, trashy, and scary news out there about food, but how much of that is truly real and how much is just overhyped drama? How do we know who's to blame? Well, close your windows, lock your doors, grab a flashlight, but most importantly, stay away from your fridge, because it's time for Scary Food Tales. Food. We all crave it, we all dream about it, we all need it. And we all care about what we eat. So it's perfectly natural that you'd want to know as much information as possible about what's on your plate. And you can go online, you can read the newspapers, or you could watch TV. And like most people after work, I just want to chill out, you know, catch my breath, maybe watch some TV, see what's on the news, see what's happening around the world.
Good evening. As you should know, I am the excellent Michael Tan. Tonight, world leaders gather as they try and fail to agree on foreign policies. The stock markets tumble, and then rise, and then tumble.
Boy, this is getting gloomy. Maybe I should change the channel.
First, let's start with something a little bit more palatable. Let's talk about the wonderful world of food.
Yeah, food. Now we're talking. That's more like it. You've got my attention now.
Consumers beware. You could be eating nasty bugs and insects without even knowing it.
That's just...
Businesses around the world are sneakily force-feeding bugs to you and your family.
As I walked through the crowd, I realized that people are oblivious to the things that are happening around them. They're drinking their coffee, they're thinking about their lunch, maybe even eating as we speak. But what they do not know is that there are bugs in their food. Did you know that your food might contain insects?
Seriously?
No. No, I didn't. You didn't? How do you feel about having insects in your food? Very disgusting.
Yeah, disgusting. I feel slightly disgusted.
What kind of insect?
Yeah.
If it's ants, I'm still okay.
I think bugs. Let's take it as extra protein. I think.
The truth is, you may not find it listed in the contents, but it's definitely there. It's all in the red-colored food dye. I know, it's just food dye, but insects in your food.
What? Is that it? Just food dye? It's funny how scared we get when we only hear one part of the story. That's why we need to check on some of these claims.
And it's absolutely true that we do use a crushed insect as a colorant in our food. And the best example is something called cochineal. So it's a wonderful colorant for many, many foods. You'll be surprised to know how much of bugs we still eat unobtrusively. Many of the rice that we consume have got small amounts of weevil. We are quite happy to eat them as long as you don't know that you're eating them.
If you're one of those many happy parents out there, you're probably aware that the little ones love brightly colored foods. However, those artificial food dyes might possibly be altering your children's behavior.
But wait a minute. If food dyes are so dangerous, then how come they're allowed to be in food in the first place?
So there's been a long history about food colorants causing hyperactivity, but frankly, the data is very unconvincing because when you remove the certain dyes in the food, there are many, many compounds in food that could also be causing attention deficiency. But if you do want to have the avoidance of certain colorants, then you can look for foods that are naturally colored, which are quite different from what are called coal tar-derived colorants that are found in foods.
Okay, Mom and Dad, when in doubt, keep it old school. Stick to fruits and veggies. They're safe, tried, and true.
Fruits and vegetables are giving your kids cancer.
Oh, come on, seriously? This is starting to freak me out a bit. How can fruits and veggies give your kids cancer?
I'm out here in the streets trying to find some moms and dads to let them know how terrible they are at parenting. Are you aware that there are pesticides in fruits and vegetables?
Oh, this is about pesticides, not the fruits and veggies themselves. Okay, that was a bit misleading.
Did you know that fruits and vegetables may contain pesticides?
Oh, yes.
Yes. The pesticide doesn't bother you?
Bother me a bit.
Do you still feed them to people?
I feed it to my kids.
I feel this is a bit of an exaggeration. I'm aware that veggies and fruits might have some pesticides on them, but how much of that are we actually consuming?
Frankly, the amount that we consume now is very well controlled. If you wash your fruits and vegetables, there's a minimum chance that you would get any access to the pesticides that are of any public health concern. Get the benefits of fruits and vegetables by washing your fruits and vegetables with generous amounts of flowing water, and if possible, also remove the skin of your fruits or vegetables, and therefore you could minimize pesticide but enjoy the delectable nature of the fruits.
Woo! I'm getting hungry. Time for some yummy chicken rice.
Beware of fake rice. You heard me right, fake
boy.
rice. The honest bowl of rice can now be harmful and even deadly. Greedy and evil counterfeiting companies are producing fake rice from plastic, potato, sweet potatoes, and synthetic resin.
Seriously? Okay, maybe I just won't eat the rice. At least the chicken looks yummy.
Is your chicken real chicken? Or is it mutant chicken? Louisa has the story.
These mutant chickens are 266% bigger than what they used to be. That is a staggering, scary number.
Again, this news piece might be slightly overblown. What's the real story behind these big chickens?
The reason why we get very quick growth of our chickens is because of selecting the right breed, which are called the broiler chicken. This broiler chicken has been actually bred to have an ability to grow very fast. That's precisely what you want from a farmer and a farming perspective. Number two, we now know because of good science what is the optimum nutrients required for growth. The double whammy of breed and the food makes the chicken grow like the clappers.
Coming up, these scary shock tactics continue. Is there ammonia in your meat? What about milk hormones? Can you die from mercury poisoning in your fish? Or is it all just too much drama? So far, we were scared by bugs in your food. But with a little investigation, we revealed it was just food coloring and totally safe for consumption. Fruits and veggies giving you cancer? We learned that pesticides are a possible culprit, but washing the fruits and vegetables thoroughly helps a lot.
Okay, I hope this next segment's not as scary.
I'm here at a famous Japanese sushi restaurant. And hey, I have a joke to tell you. What did sushi A say to sushi B? Huh? What's up, B? You get it? What's up, B?
Wasabi.
But sushi is no laughing matter. What I meant was this sushi may contain fish that has traces of mercury that could actually be killing you.
Here we go again.
Do you feel safe? Should you avoid seafood or just ban them from your life?
We do find traces of mercury in our fish, and the reason why there's been a public concern about mercury is that it's a cumulative toxin that can cause lots of diseases, including brain damage. But in reality, because of strict regulations around the world, the amount of mercury that you find in fish are tightly controlled. The benefits of eating fish that is a rich source of protein and a whole range of nutrients, including omega-3, outweighs the modest potential of having some mercury in your diet. But if you are a pregnant mother or planning to become pregnant or a very young child below the age of 2, then you need to be cautious about eating certain types of fatty fish. You may want to avoid things like jack mackerel, skipjack, swordfish, and you can eat things like salmon, catfish, and also any kind of crustaceans like prawns and shrimps, and therefore you have a nice variety that you can choose from.
If there's mercury in our seafood, can you imagine what else lurks in fish? Are they pumped full of antibiotics? How can these antibiotics affect you?
Okay, that's it. I am tired of being fed this nonsense. Fish should be safe to eat, right? I want to get to the bottom of this. It's time to hear from the experts.
I do know that there are 2 ways to fight off animal diseases: antibiotics and vaccines.
The difference between vaccines and antibiotics is mainly that if there is a disease, you use an antibiotic to treat it, but you use a vaccine to prevent the disease to come in the first place. We do the same with the fish or any other animal which we eat. In the case of fish, we can't really cure them anymore. There are thousands of them in the farm. So the vaccine is the smarter idea compared to antibiotics.
Now that we've cleared that up, should we be concerned about eating vaccinated fish?
Consumers should not be afraid of eating vaccinated fish. Vaccinated fish has been ongoing since 1988, and so far there's no adverse effect.
Basically, the vaccine is disappeared by the time we eat it. It gets injected when the fish is very, very small, and the fish gets harvested when they're quite big. There is no vaccine left. It can't change the taste.
You know, scanning through the headlines is making me think that there could be many more things in your food than you might believe. Do you like chicken? Well, let me tell you something. There might be beef in your chicken.
You could have some beef products in chicken in the form of gelatin. Gelatin is actually found by breaking down proteins, and we use gelatin to bind the chicken nugget, but the chicken nugget is actually quite robust, and that integrity comes by adding some gelatin.
Online headlines are no different. You'll find the same scary food tales on a number of websites. Check this one out. Fast food lovers, beware. This alarmist headline says there is sugar in your French fries. Well, the short answer is yes. Potatoes naturally contain small amounts of sugar, and this is what gives your French fries that nice golden characteristic when fried. But some potatoes are naturally low in sugar, which is why some outlets add additional sugar dextrose to give it that golden color, and the result is a beautiful, even, crisp, caramelized layer. Vegans, beware. This headline says there could be animal products in your wine. Now, as far as I know, wine is made primarily of grapes. But could there be something else in there?
When you ferment grapes into wine, you have to add yeast. And once the yeast is there, you need to clarify the wine so that it actually is clear. So to clarify the wine, we either add protein like casein from milk or albumin from egg. In fact, the amount of protein remaining in wine is in trace quantities. But if you're ultra-conservative vegan, then I suggest that you look for the label where you have used things like kaolin, bentonite, or charcoal to remove it.
To find out why so many of us are affected by these scary food stories, I decided to reach out to a psychologist.
Vida, I have a burning question for you about scary stories regarding food. Why is it that some people don't question the validity of these scary stories more often?
Well, we tend to use our intuition. The first thing we do is when information is provided, how does that make us feel instantly rather than sort of analyze it? We tend to gravitate towards information that gives us an adrenaline rush. Okay, it makes us fearful. It puts us in a sort of fight or flight mode.
Do you think that these scary stories about food actually inhibit us from exploring further, looking for the truth, and debating the real issues?
I think there's just so much information overload these days. It's very hard to separate fact from fiction. There's a lot of repetition of it, and people start to believe if they hear it more than once.
And being scared all the time doesn't help us go deeper into the real issues at hand.
I don't know if you've noticed, but we are facing a food shortage crisis. And the topic of how we source our food has sparked a lot of intense debates across several media outlets. Take GMOs, for example, genetically modified foods. These crops promise to be easier to grow, resistant to parasites and diseases, and even more nutritious. But some people and some stories are asking, are GMOs safe? Should we be worried?
From a safety point of view, in general, they have gone through rigorous testing, and the WHO has also approved its consumption. There's little evidence that GMO are harmful to you. But we do not know what the long-term consequences are in terms of consuming GMOs for a longer period of time. We simply cannot demonize GMO on the current basis, but at the same time, we cannot accept it carte blanche, and the debate has to be done in a very unified, pragmatic, and a rational way.
One story that's made the headlines recently sounds a lot like science fiction to me. Lab-grown meat. Yes, meat grown in a petri dish in a lab. So instead of raising farm animals, scientists were able to isolate animal tissue for human consumption. And this has raised all sorts of questions, from feasibility to taste to ethical dilemmas.
Let's be very clear that it's not a Frankenstein transformation of a cell into an animal. It means that the tissues of the cells or the muscle are taken and grown in a way, so therefore what you'd find is predominantly muscle tissue in the petri dish that's grown up. Going forward, it may be of some substitute to animal husbandry. But the current time, the cost of lab-grown meat is so exorbitant compared to animal husbandry that it cannot be a tenable comparator. Going forward, this may be one of the ways in which we can actually harvest and harness meat without having to grow into animal production.
Coming up, how real is the beef used in your burger? Is there something else lurking in your patty? Are plastic water bottles slowly poisoning you? So much drama, so little time. Stay tuned. So far, we've revealed that mercury is found in seafood, but most of the time, the amount we consume isn't high enough to cause any damage to our health. Genetically modified foods, or GMOs, might sound scary, but they've been developed specifically to fend off diseases and maintain our food sustainability.
Sitting in front of the TV for too long and watching all the alarmist dramas that some of the shows throw at you, you know what, that's not so good. So I thought I'd give myself a little break, and what better place to do that than right here at the supermarket. And I'm craving burgers. Yeah, sounds good. Burgers, burgers. Ha! Bingo! Sorry, 1 second.
Breaking news, the meat scandal. Louisa has the story.
Did you know that the meat used to make your hamburgers might have been washed with ammonia?
Ammonia? In here? Oh, I'm not gonna let that scare me. No, I'm only going to rely on reliable information from a reliable source. Food scientists.
Meat is laden with a lot of bacteria. And one of the bacteria that we are concerned about is E. coli. And it turns out that when you add ammonia to the meats in very small quantities, it kills the most important pathogen, E. coli. Meat has to be also cooked and processed, and therefore there is little or no danger in the presence of ammonia. Because it's highly volatile, when you cook the meat, it all evaporates. So therefore, ammonia will not remain as a residue in any of the meat that you consume.
The horse meat scandal. A while ago, beef burger products in the UK were tested and were found to contain horse DNA. Are you sure you're buying 100% beef products?
Yeah, this really did happen. In the UK and Europe, people were outraged when they found out they were eating horse meat. The big problem is that what people bought was not what was advertised. Because in some cultures, it's perfectly okay to eat horse meat. It might be taboo here and there, but in a country like France, for instance, it's absolutely fine. Milk. Should be safe, right? I mean, it's just milk. And I know milk. Hold on a second.
Milk may be harmless, but it is full of hormones. And it is these hormones that may be causing your kids to grow big. I've heard a rumor, and I'm not so sure if it's true.
Oh man, I've heard this one before. This one's been in the news for a long time. But luckily, food scientists do have the answer.
A few years ago, many of the US dairy industry used a hormone to increase milk production. But fortunately, much of the milk that is imported or consumed in Asia comes from Australia, New Zealand, Japan, or sometimes from European Union and from Canada. All of these countries do not use hormones. So in a sense, we may be protected from having this hormone-laced milk in this region. So if you really, really want to be safe, then look for the organic label where it is by definition should not have any hormone synthetically injected into the milk.
Oh, if you like yogurt, you're not gonna like this piece of news. Check it out. Beware, yogurt contains pork and beef. That actually sounds gross. But do you think there's any truth to these claims?
You may have some pork or beef products in yogurt because some yogurts use gelatin as a thickening agent. They do add a trace amount of gelatin to give that texture. For religious reasons, if you want to avoid pork, then always read the label to see whether it contains porcine gelatin or bovine gelatin, and that will tell you that it contains gelatin.
All this drama. I can't stand it anymore.
Water, the liquid of life. That might just kill you. You heard me. That bottled water that you buy might just be the worst decision of your life.
That is right. These plastic bottles can be your worst enemy. I wonder if the average person knows just how dangerous these plastic bottles can be. Do you know that drinking water from plastic bottles and reusing them is dangerous?
No, I didn't.
Did you know that it's toxic to reuse plastic bottles?
No, I didn't know that.
Do you know that it's dangerous reusing those bottles?
Yeah.
And you still use them? Do not reuse these bottles. When you freeze them or leave them out in the sun for too long, the chemicals that are used to make these bottles may react under extreme temperatures and may seep into your drink. Or so we've heard. We're not entirely sure.
That is a serious claim. How can we tell if a plastic bottle is harmful? What can we look out for?
So the debate on plastic bottles surrounds on a topic called BPA or bisphenol. Predominantly, you have a mixture of ones that contain BPA and some that don't. BPA has been shown to have a great effect on fetal growth and development in animals, and therefore the assumption that it could also have a potential effect on humans. The worst of the consequence will be if you leave it in the sun, because the temperature will affect the plastic and the plastic compounds may leach into the water. So if you want to have a reusable water bottle, buy one which says BPA free, which is widely available now, certainly in many parts of the world, including much of Asia.
Let's face it, we hear scary stories about food all the time, and it can be overwhelming. But you know what? Those scary stories are just going to keep on coming. So if you don't want to frighten yourself, the answer is simple. Fact check it. Is the news as bad as it sounds? Can you verify it with multiple reliable sources? Read up on the subject matter for a better understanding rather than just taking a shocking headline as fact. Most of the time, it's just sensationalized. Most of the time. So when in doubt, check it out.